It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years' experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another edition of Remodel Revolution, the podcast series. I'm here today with my good friend Poonam Patel, who is an architect and designer. We're broadcasting live from deep in the heart of Texas at the Remodel Revolution World Headquarters. This is our new launch of our new show, and we're so happy to be here, and we are so happy to have you with us. We hope you're having a great day, and we hope you enjoy the show. Today we're going to talk about Poonam's journey as an architect and a millennial and a first generation American woman in construction is what we're going to call that. And we're going to also have a builder's tip. And then we're going to just do, I really want to hear Poonam's story. We're going to talk about some architectural stuff and some remodeling things. And so let's get started. So on today's show, my builder's tip today is brought to you by Total Air and Heat, my go-to heating and air conditioning company. And I just want to tell you, listen, anybody can tell you that they work cheap, but cheap gets really expensive when the job isn't done right. And so an honest, well-trained crew is what you want at your house. And when you call Total Air and Heat, their crews have been background checked, drug tested. They really go through a lot of work to make sure they have the right people in your home. They're also highly trained and very professional. I use them on a lot of my projects. They're in North Dallas. You can contact them at totalair.com, or you can call them at 866-483-0958. And it's time to get your AC unit working to its peak efficiency. We're about to hit a bunch of 100-degree days. So let's make sure and give them a call. And we want to thank them for being sponsors of our show. Salvaging old brick and stone from a house that is about to be demolished is a great way to ensure that you have matching brick or stone for your home if you need it in the future. Now, I've had a couple of instances where I've been doing additions on older houses built maybe in the 20s or even in the last 30 years, but houses that might be 100 years old and houses that are not that old. And it's always a challenge matching brick and stone. And so if I see a house that's about to be torn down, I'll call the builder. Often I'll call the builder. Sometimes I'll know him and he'll blackmail me when I'm trying to get the stone. Yeah, I'll call him up and say, hey man, you're about to tear that house down. Can I have that brick? And he'll go, sure. Can I have a nice gift certificate to my favorite steakhouse? and so there's ways to make deals. So you don't actually have to come out of pocket with a bunch of cash. Just buy a movie ticket. Who knows? But if you see a house that's about to be torn down, instead of the brick or stone going to the dump or landfill or something like that, or backfill for a lot, get somebody and get a trailer load of it and take it home. And you could use it for a border around your garden. You can use it for a sidewalk. There's all kinds of things you can do with it so that if you need it in the future, and would not be surprised how many times I've had to go in and find that old brick and stone and patch cracks in the walls, or someone wants to do an addition and I only have enough brick for maybe one wall and I need more. So if you can find it, get it and save it. It's a great way to protect yourself for future additions you're going to do to your house. Today, I want to talk about how green used to be an option and now it's the law in a lot of places. And I wanted to introduce to you Poonam Patel, who is an architect and a designer and an amazing young lady that I've met recently, and I just fell in love with her. I mean, we're both married, so it's like safe. You don't have to worry about it. Plus, she could be my daughter, but besides that. Hi. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning to you too, daughter. In case you guys were looking at my Facebook page the other day, I had her listed as a doctor. So, sorry about that. She's not. Much to the dismay of her parents, who really wanted her to be a doctor. So things are really changing around the country, where laws are being passed to make people have to do solar panels on their roofs in California, or an entire town, Berkeley, which has outlawed carbon-based appliances. No more gas. Has to be electric. Now, I was resistant. My all along for years, I have said with electric cars and things, I've said, you still have to produce the electricity to charge the car. And so, are you really helping anything? You're still pumping out a bunch of carbon emissions from the power plant, maybe more, because now you're charging this car. But as time has gone on, and we've developed solar farms, we've developed wind farms, and we have better ways of storing electricity. In an ideal world, your energy comes from a clean source and it goes to a clean source. How, in your design, are you utilizing things like green design and green technology?
Well, that's a great question. I'm a huge fan of green design. One of my dreams is to be able to design a 100% green project.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we're using all of Elon Musk's power walls and solar panels and all of that. And the city of Dallas actually has, and you're right, they have a green code where you have to get everything green checked. And what that means is that they're looking for gallons per minute water flow restrictive. So your shower head is not like a deluge system.
Like we used to have.
Yeah.
Like 5 gallons a minute. It was fantastic, let me tell you.
And so they're looking at how much water is going down the toilet when you're flushing it. So instead of 4 or 5 gallons, it's restricted to 1.8 now.
Right. That's called having to change your diet as well.
The aqua diet. And so I think it's a great thing for Dallas, the city of Dallas, to implement that, and I have no problem with it. Making sure that we're selecting products that go into our designs that are, helping the environment as the best as we possibly can. Dallas still has a lot of. I would love to see a lot more solar panels and power walls and things like that. There are some LEED rated buildings, and I'd like to see more of it. And I try to implement green design wherever I can, whether it's using a recyclable, sustainable material, making sure that I'm abiding by the green codes here locally, and pushing the envelope and trying to find clients who really share those values of wanting to have solar panels and the power wall systems. And
well, the interesting thing about green is it's encompassed all sorts of things. So there's sort of a chain of events that have led to different phases of green building and the necessity for it. And one is that we're building tighter houses. So the old houses that I've remodeled all my life that can be 100, they were not built for air conditioning. And then we introduced air conditioning into them, which is basically blowing this wonderful, cool, moist air into your house and creating all kinds of problems in houses that aren't designed for it. And as we become more efficient, where we have more efficient windows and doors, less air goes out, there's less air exchange. And so you have to manage the air that's in the house. It's critical that we do that. And we've had to adjust our codes accordingly so that we're not making people sick and causing mold and things like that. But the water thing is really a great discussion, particularly this time of year when we're in the middle of summer. And we've had to, when they first built or settled Dallas, and they settled on the bank of the Trinity River, and they had some semi-clean, clean enough. I guess if you boiled it long enough, you could drink it. I'm not sure what all was floating in it, but we know what floats in it now, right? So Dallas is as early on in the 1880s, 1850s, had big problems with disease from the water because it was so bad. And so after the 1950 drought, I think it was in the mid 50s, they realized that they had to develop a lot more lakes in North Texas to supply water to the city, which they've been doing, thank God, because we'd be in a world of hurt if they hadn't done that. And so it's critical. The reason I'm bringing all this up, it's critical that the plumbing that we use, the plumbing fixtures that we use, and actually our daily habits coincide with the availability of the water that we have, particularly when I think that our North Texas population has grown by over 1 million in the last 4 years or something like that. Insane. It's crazy. So we're going to have a new rule. When you move to North Texas, bring your own water. I'm just kidding. But the other is as for the part two of the green, with the energy efficiency of the houses and the air conditioning. The reason I brought that up, and this is particularly important to you in your design, are things like paint, because you're a designer as well, right? And so when you're picking fabrics and you're picking paints, low VOC paints, fabrics that don't off gas, stuff like that. What about glues? Like if someone wants to glue down an engineered wood flooring, do you tell them what to a certain product to use that's low VOC or anything like that?
It depends on the project. Whenever we're selecting materials, there's always the option to how you're going to specify the product. Typically, when you're specifying a specific manufacturer, company, product, model, make, those jobs typically are going to require a lot more attention, and consequently, whoever the client is needs to be able to have that built in their budget. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there are projects where you can just say something as simple as brick, and then there's no clarity in terms of, okay, well, what kind of brick it is. Is it recycled brick? What color is it, the texture? So there's different degrees and varies of detail on the project. So I would say it's project specific.
Well, and that's interesting you brought that up, the brick, for instance, because in green, one of the things that we're talking about is recycle, reuse, repurpose, right? And so I get an email about once every couple months from a guy in East Texas that does recycled wood flooring. You need any recycled wood flooring? I love recycled wood flooring. But that's a green. So the green, particularly if you get into what's it called? What are the levels of it's silver, lead?
Yeah, silver, lead, platinum, gold, platinum. And then also too, the University of Houston has done extensive research on where you can source recyclable materials, and I can post that on the link below. They have a directory of their own where you can source recycled material here locally.
And part of that recycling is how far away from the point of use is. In other words, like if it's 50 miles away, you get certain lead points. If it's 200, that's all interesting because it all starts tying into carbon emissions and things like that. And so when you're talking about green, you're talking about this. It's a really huge. It's a big classification of. There's a big bowl of things, and there's all these little things in there that add up to a really sustainable house. It's more than just, do you have solar panels? Do you have all electric? Do you whatever?
There are many organizations out there that are promoting green design, and one of the biggest ones is LEED. It's an acronym, LEED, and they have an Excel sheet that shows you all the different ways you can gain green points. Some are easier, some are more difficult to obtain. For example, an easy one is just installing a bike rack on commercial properties. Yeah, this is an easy way to get some good points.
You get green points for installing a bike rack.
Yes. Yeah, because you're promoting pedestrian, commuting through bikes and encouraging that instead
You're
of
encouraging people to
our
drive good and stay in the right lane and not run over the guy on the bike.
preventing us Texans from using our big trucks.
Yeah. Hey, don't get personal.
I drive a Tesla.
You drive a Tesla? Next thing you'll tell me you're going to space in one of his spaceships. That was today's green tip, and that was brought to you by Hargrave Foundation Repair. Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation has been in business over 50 years, probably 60 years. They are a local foundation repair company. Randy Hargrave's dad started the business, and he now runs it along with other people in his family. They are, if you want a really honest, really straightforward foundation company, and I'll tell you, when people call, the worst thing than calling the foundation company is calling the dentist, and so, or your attorney. These guys are fantastic. They'll come out to your house, and they will tell you if you don't need. I've sent them to homes, and they've told the homeowner, you don't need foundation repair. All you need is watering your foundation. But if you do need foundation repair, you want somebody that's really honest, and they have a fantastic system. They use a Chase helical pier system, and the Chase helical pier is kind of like a big screw that goes in the ground. It doesn't make nearly as much of a mess, and it's quicker, and it's a really good system. I use it. I do a lot of elevators, and I have to put piers under these little elevator shafts that I build. I always use the helical piers because they're easy to get in. They don't make as much mess. And I always call Hargrave Foundation Repair when I have a foundation need of any kind. So give them a call. Look on the screen and find their contact information and give Randy a call. They're great folks. So let's talk about Poonam Patel, Urban Loop Studios, Architects and Design. You have been in business how long?
This November, it'll be 4 years.
4 years? You haven't even used up all the ink out of any of your pens yet.
Actually, I have. I'm ordering some new ones.
Are you really? Okay. So you must make a lot of mistakes like I do. 4 years, and so you started sort of at the peak of the revitalization of the economy when the housing industry started really coming back. How are you finding your clientele, or how are they finding you?
That's a very difficult question. I haven't figured that out yet.
So whatever you're not doing, just keep not doing it.
Just keep.
Yeah. But you do. Tell us about the type of design that you're most comfortable with. Is it modern, transitional?
Yeah, I love doing modern design, contemporary. So we're working with open floor plan layouts. And then there's the other part of me, which is the culture that I bring that's from India. You know, I've had the rare luxury to visit the Taj Mahal and go inside.
Really?
It's so beautiful.
Really?
So I try to bring in some elements, whether
You know,
it's
that's
through
the
light
worst thing that a client can say. I thought I hired the right contractor, and then he wanted to build the Taj Mahal. Have you had that one yet?
No,
You will.
So our design strategy is to make sure that we're designing for our clients. You know, our client, for our residential work, our clients are the ones that are living in that house 24/7.
Right.
So it's our priority to be able to make sure we understand their needs, what they want, you know, how they want to live their lifestyle. And our design strategy is to accommodate that and provide a place for them to do those tasks, whether it's a reading nook for somebody who loves to read, or a really nice open floor plan layout leading out to the patio with a bar for those socialites. So that's our design strategy.
So you'll do small and large projects?
I started off doing large projects. The first project I ever did was a 33-acre mixed-use development with Good Fulton and Farrell.
Wow.
It's called Park Lane.
Wow.
It's off of across the street from North Park Mall.
Uh-huh.
And I have worked on large projects, and as I've progressed in my career, I've noticed a trend that I'm moving on to smaller and smaller project types, because I love that they are a little bit more intimate. There's a lot more level of detail, as opposed to trying to pitch a design to a board where one of their priorities is ROI.
So let's talk about your kind of your journey to get to where you are today, because becoming a business owner is a huge commitment. I know that most of us, when we start young, it's just sort of a leap of faith. Now, for me, it's because I'm stubborn. It's hard for me to take direction. I don't really care what you think, as long because I know I'm right. And so I started my own business because for some reason I'm unemployable. But I don't throw things, I'm not violent or anything. So, what made you? Because I read a little piece about you, and I know that this is the truth. I keep joking you about it, but her parents did not want her to be an architect. They wanted her to be a doctor, just like I said she was. So if you saw my Facebook post a couple of days ago, I was trying to help her out, make mom and dad happy. But then she calls me up and says, "I'm not a doctor." Okay. What got you to architecture? Did you draw a lot when you were a kid? I mean, what is it?
I didn't know I wanted to be an architect. I kind of fell into it. I was dead set on becoming a doctor. My freshman year in college, I was a biology major, taking physics and chemistry and Bio 1. And
so you're like a smart architect.
I think all architects are very intelligent, and I would be.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
They're very smart people.
Yeah,
I just
ask them.
I hope to earn their respect one day.
Well, this will do it for sure.
They're very smart people.
And so you were studying to be a doctor, and then how'd you veer off that path? That's like stepping off a cliff. How'd you do that?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah. Don't tell me it was somebody you were dating.
No, that's not me.
Okay, all right.
Well, I would have to say it's two reasons. One, my physics professor was extremely attractive, and I couldn't focus.
I knew it was somebody somebody you wanted to date.
And that my second year in college, I took an
Let's
elective.
talk about the physics professor.
No, we cannot. off radio.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyhow, at that same time, I had taken an elective called Architecture and Culture, and that class was led by a very energetic professor named Mark Blizzard. Hi, Mark, if you're listening. And it was a one-way road. I changed my major pretty much that week, and I haven't turned back since.
So has the physics professor hired you to remodel his kitchen or something yet?
That would be a good pitch.
If he only knew. And so you get inspired by a professor to kind of go. How did he inspire you to change?
The way that he sold and told the idea of architecture. It's a phenomenal profession. You're able to use your creativity. You're able to use your logic. You're able to use. There's so many a diversity of tasks that are entailed and required to do what we do. And I loved the idea that I'm not being pigeonholed to just crunch numbers all day as an accountant, or doing surgeries all day.
Who wants to do surgeries all day? I mean, I had the same problem. I thought, I don't want to do surgeries all day. I'll be a contractor.
But I'll tell you.
I'll remodel your house.
But I'll tell you one of the things.
Instead of your body. I'm sorry.
One of the things that I love about it the most is that we have the unique ability to shape people's environment. Us humans, we spend a lot of time in buildings, and it tends to have a psychological effect on your mood and your being. And to be able to get in front of that, design that, and influence the mood of people in an office building, and have the opportunity to sprinkle a little bit of happiness in somebody's day is something that really brings joy to my life, to be able to contribute to other people's lives in a meaningful way, whether it's just adding a window next to a cubicle or, in front of the kitchen window, whatever it could be.
One of the things, and I told somebody this yesterday, and I'm going to have to patent this phrase. Your house was not built to be remodeled. Okay? And so when I gave somebody a price and they were like, oh, what? Why? And you go, well, your house wasn't built to be remodeled. So it's not easy going in and doing that room addition. It's not easy building that elevator. None of this is easy stuff. And it's become a lot more complicated with code requirements, with more technology that we're having to use. We've had to take the entire construction industry and re-educate us over really the last 10 years have been we've been doing this for lots of years, guys. I know some of us don't, some of us still think you're supposed to have a hammer in your tool belt. And I know supposed carpenters that don't, because they have a machine that hammers the nail now. So there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of the path to weaving through the technologies and all the things that are changing all the time. How do you keep up with all of that?
It depends on who you are. I'm invigorated by it. I love technology. I love learning new ways to doing things, especially if it means being able to do things more efficiently. I embrace it. So for me, sometimes that's what I'm doing on the weekends.
So when you're faced with a challenge, let's say you're doing a room addition and you have a lot of challenges. The one I looked at yesterday is just a small little bathroom. But people look at it and they go, oh, it's just a small little bathroom. How could it cost that much? But you still have to pay that silly architect. You've got to pay the engineer. You've got to do all these things other than build that project. Yep. How do you square that with your clients?
Communication. Communicating is very important. It's easier for clients to make a decision and cut a check when you're being very clear with them in terms of where that money's going and how it's being spent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it is. It's just, it's being transparent. And I find transparency is good. I have had a few people try and take advantage of the transparency part of it. So
yeah, there are those people.
Yeah,
there are those people.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not so good, depends on the person.
Yeah.
But in your world, you're having to deal with people your age that are younger, and really people my age are getting there, as not nearly like you are, but our whole society is becoming far more tech savvy and more comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And so you're having to go in and put the things in people's houses or recommend things to people that bring them up to a certain level that they're comfortable with. And so you have to, I mean, it's everything from the appliances that they're putting in to the lighting, the LED lighting, the control systems, and it all has to be run off of this. If it isn't run off of this, I don't want it. Tell us a few things in the tech world that you're recommending to people.
Well, there's a lot of consultants that I use that specialize in that. From automated blinds to being able to control the color of your light bulb.
That's right.
And dimmable through your
phone. I tried explaining that to someone the other day, and they looked at me like I was stupid, and I had to admit, I'm really stupid. I don't know how this works. I just know you can do it. And they go, well, how many kelvins? And I go, I don't know. Do you want red, blue, or white?
Well, I'll answer that question. You want natural daylight, which is 4,000 to 5,000 kelvins.
Okay. I told her 3,000. So what do I know? Soft white.
Yeah.
At any rate, it's become, look, I grew up, it was like, how many light bulbs do you want? Do you want hundreds or 60s? You know what?
Yeah.
Life was easy. Do you want a white switch or do you want a brown switch? And now lighting control is a science all itself. And what it all leads to for your design and your architecture, it affects everything that you're doing because the lighting is so important now. It affects, one white looks different under a 3,000 Kelvin than a 4,000 Kelvin, things like that. So how much of your time do you think you're spending trying to make all that work for people? Is that a large part of what you're having to do, is dealing with all that?
Yeah, education is a huge part of it. Making sure that, again, going back to clear communication, making sure what you're recommending, providing the options to your clients and giving them the opportunity to select what they want. And from there, it's easier for them to understand the numbers that follow. Going back to lighting, I have a light fixture that shows all three different lights: the yellow, the natural daylight, and then the 4,000 kelvins. And I hover it over the finished samples that I'm recommending to my clients, so they can see the difference of how that material looks different in different lighting. And it's worked out great for us.
I long for the old days when I would just say to them, look at it in the morning, look at it in the evening, look at it on a cloudy day, look at it on a sunny day, and then you'll figure out if you like it.
It takes too much time.
Why wait a day when you can do it in 5 minutes?
Agreed.
Right. Yeah. So but it's not only the coloring and that, it's the technical part of these things. The lights have drivers. Does the light dim or does it not dim? Is it controlled through your phone? Is it got a lighting control system, which now they're putting in houses, and folks, they're huge. When you see a whole house with a lighting control system, it's a monster. It's amazing, but it's fantastic. I love all of it. But what happens when lightning strikes?
Light the candles. Romantic dinner at home.
And so you're in college and you make this decision and you somehow come out with a degree in architecture, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my undergrad and my master's both are in architecture.
That's amazing. And where did you go from there? You went to work for a big company?
At the time, I probably should have thought about that. When I got out of college, I was just applying. I didn't really think that I was going to get a job straight away. And I got an offer in Austin, and I got an offer in Dallas. And I went ahead and accepted, even though I just thought it was too soon. There were about 3 months that went between graduating and over Christmas holiday. Christmas holiday.
Holiday.
Yeah.
If you you are at an age where you're having to communicate with people that real estate offices offer classes on how to communicate with millennials, because it's a different world for us. It's not, I know how I see it, they want instant gratification. They want instant that, instant that. What are your tips for somebody that's 63 years old that has to communicate with a 35-year-old?
That's a really good question. I've faced similar challenges. One resource I would like to recommend is a generational chart published by Knoll, and I'll post it on the link below. And it's an infographic that shows the different generations and their communication styles, their preferences, the technologies that were present during their prime working days. And one of the things that I'll share with you is, our recent generations, obviously we like to text, but there's still a generation out there who loves to fax.
That's right. Really?
Yeah.
Fax?
Fax. People have asked me to fax stuff.
What a bunch of old fogies.
And I like my contractors to be able to FaceTime me on the job site, so I don't have to drive 30, 40 minutes to
I would love to
go look at
FaceTime
something.
you.
And
that would be fine, but do you want to FaceTime me? That's the question.
as long as we're looking at the construction details.
Oh, okay.
I'm messing with you, Alex.
I know that. I know secretly. Anyway, FaceTime, you in theory, a builder could build a house, or you could help manage a project from that phone with the camera.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if we're losing a little bit of our human touch in a couple of ways. First of all, a successful project you have to physically be there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can do a lot with a camera, of course, and the more experience you have. I mean, I could do it in my sleep. I could build a Taj Mahal. No big deal. But you have to have physical contact on the job, not only with the job, but with the people working on the job, because it really, it's kind of like every now and then I have to just go, oh, man, I don't know how we dropped that call. When they're mad at me. It's like, oh, man, don't know what happened. Do you think that there's a trade-off with people managing these things less and less on site and more on camera?
For me, communication's the most important thing. And whether you do it in person or over FaceTime, it's going to be a judgment call. It's going to be up to whoever, sometimes, for me, for example, I always love to meet my potential clients up front in person.
Face to face.
I need to know who I'm working with for the next few months. And, for me, I would say, I agree with you that personal one-on-one touch is not there when you're doing FaceTime and texting and all that. At the same time, it is a tool that can be used to help communicate
That's
well.
the perfect answer.
Yeah,
actually.
and there's times where texting is better.
Yeah.
If somebody wants a quick response from me, text is a very efficient way to get my attention. And
I think part of what we've lost with the texting and all the instant communication is that I think that we need to at least carve out time to have one-on-one, because we have to have some human interaction. People are tending, as we all know, to become sort of desensitized with all this electronic communication, because they're not standing in front of you and they can kind of say whatever they want. And I can't tell you how many times I've responded to a client, I'm going, gee, wish I hadn't. Why did I do that? And vice versa, And so, or maybe you didn't say it. Maybe a lot of times with me, it just doesn't come out the way I intended.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's
That
just like
yeah.
I typed it, I meant a certain thing, but I'm not smart enough to make it sound the way it should,
Yeah, there's a TED Talk that I absolutely love. It's by Julian Treasure, and he does a great job about sharing not only the listening portion of communication, but also to how to speak in such a way that you can be heard. And he goes into the details of tone, pitch, temper, and all these other tools. And so it's very important to be able to be aware of the different kinds of ways of communicating with people. And
I do an exclamation point and a smiley face. And so you always know
Emoji.
you always know exactly how I feel. It's like, I'll say something really ugly and then I'll put a smiley face by it. Just kidding, But if you see that exclamation point, I meant it.
Yeah.
I love the exclamation point. It's I'm sure it'll be outlawed someday for good reason. And so communicating I think probably with people in general, but I'll tell you, I had a meeting with a couple, this is a couple years ago, and they were in their 30s, and they're wanting to do a pretty good sized project. They're wanting to do an addition and some other things on their house. And the entire time that I'm talking to them, I don't even know if she knew what I looked like. Just the entire time she was
on her.
And I'm like, are you like dictating to your husband what we're saying, or are you talking to your girlfriends, or do you have any idea what I just said? Shut up, put it down.
If it makes you feel any better, I get irritated whenever I see friends on the phone. It's it's like, hey, we made plans to hang out.
Right.
Yeah. Why are
You
you
ought
on
to
your
go have
phone?
lunch with my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just another reason not to speak to me.
Yeah, but I think communication is really important, and whether it's through text, FaceTime, or in person, I think it's a judgment call in terms of what's going to be most effective and in the sake of communication, because sometimes
Right.
it's better to text and sometimes it's better to call. I had a conversation with my dad just maybe two or 3 weeks ago. He keeps asking me to call me, like, why don't you call me? And I said, Dad, you don't answer my text messages. So then I mess around with him, and then I'll try to text him on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger to see which one he bites on.
Someday he's going to say, I've got arthritis. I can't.
No,
you know.
so we negotiated. I call him, and then he texts me. That's what we've negotiated.
Yeah, I call my son who lives in Portland, Oregon. I go, how come you haven't called me? Because I don't have anything to talk to you about. Okay. But I love you, Dad. Thanks a lot. So with communicating with millennials, it's a techie thing. I mean, you have to use your phone. You have to be proficient enough on your computer because they want to see it. I had to learn just how to put a link on there to go look at these doors. That took me days. I finally figured it out. But in the meantime, all my other clients were calling me, how come you're sending me this link to these doors? Oh, I don't know. I just put it in the wrong.
Yeah, one day my dad accidentally uploaded his entire photo album to Facebook.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Did he get in trouble? He's a good boy, though, isn't he? I mean, he didn't have selfies with the waitress or,
There were a bunch of selfies on there I didn't expect.
Your dad does selfies? Really?
He does.
I'm afraid of selfies.
Yeah, he needs a little bit of work, but
that's why I spend an hour a week on the camera. Well, I have noticed that as one generation of my clients communicating is different. There's still the folks that want to talk by phone. They want to meet every week. They want to be one-on-one, personal, and I'm comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable with all of it. And you're absolutely right. Communication in a construction project is paramount. It is absolutely. And I talk to people that didn't have a good experience with their project because they never saw the contractor, never heard from the contractor. They just would go out there and there would be his guys. I went out to the job site and all I saw were the guys working. I never saw the guys write the check to. And then when there were problems, there's no accountability. So that creates a whole nother thing. So I totally agree with you on that.
And I'll add to that, I think all too often the conversation becomes about texting versus in person. And I think what we really need to be looking at is what we can learn from each other. So in my experience working with other architects and engineers and contractors, oftentimes I'm working with much older men. And the goal...
What do you consider older?
I'm young.
Is an older guy like 40?
I'm not going to answer that.
It depends.
It depends on which tech you use.
Well, you are such a chicken.
So going back, I think the important thing here is to be able to make sure that you're learning from your elders, and if it means picking up a book or having a face-to-face conversation, so be it, because it's about learning and it's about communicating. And what I would like to ask of the elder generation is that to be able to be open to technology and be able to communicate and connect with the younger generation and the knowledge that comes with the newer generation.
Let me answer for the older generation. The older generation's response to that is please do it in such a way that we can understand what the heck we're doing.
I could say the same. I I could say the same.
But you know what a fax is.
Did you know that the way that I faxed is I downloaded a fax app and I take a photo of it and I sent it through my phone app?
Well, I rest my case.
Point being, we should be open to learning through books and face-to-face, as well as being able to be open to learning through technology and communication network.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes.
Oh, time flies.
I'm telling you. What is your perfect project?
Oh my gosh. I would rephrase that and ask, what is your perfect client?
Okay.
Yeah, because the perfect client for me would be somebody who is very passionate about green design, and I would be able to do solar panels and, the power walls and maybe even a windmill. The perfect client would be somebody who's passionate about the built environment and willing to experiment with movable parts, kinetic architecture, kind of like Transformers, but for buildings. And somebody who's very down to earth and reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what the project type doesn't matter.
And pays well.
Absolutely. And on time.
Pays on time.
Pays on time.
Wow.
I love getting paid.
Yeah. Me too. And I've got 1 minute left with you. Is there an advantage to being a woman in architecture and design? Now, for years, it was all men architects.
Absolutely.
But you're really kind of breaking ground here. Women are, in general, breaking ground here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. People, one of the things I'm learning is that people want to hire me because I'm a female, because I have something different to offer. And when I first discovered that, I was disappointed about it, because I want people to look at me and see my credentials and my 5-star reviews and my skill sets. I would say, if you don't have a woman on your team, do it now. Do it this week.
I totally agree. I think there's, and as you know, I'm very woman-centric in my broadcasting, because I think that the dimensions, the sort of essentials that women bring to this business now has completely changed the landscape, and I'm very happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I've had so much fun with you. You're awesome.
Thank you so much.
And so, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you? We've been putting your website up there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my Facebook or my website at urbanloopstudio.com, and I'll be posting all the references that I made on Remodel Revolution Facebook Live comments.
There you go. There you go. That's
yeah.
Well, Poonam Patel, you have been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
And we had a lot of fun, and we learned a lot. Thank you so much for being here. Next week, we're going to have Caroline Brzozowski. Caroline, I'm sorry. I didn't have my notes prepared for that. I don't know her, so hopefully she'll still be here. We're going to talk about healthy homes, and that's going to be a Zoom broadcast, so that'll be a lot of fun. And we are going to, after that, we're going to have, if you'll go onto the website, you'll see the lineup that we have coming up for future shows. We're booked out up almost to November at this point. And we have builders, we have series, we're going to do more women in construction. I have another 2 of those shows coming up. I have 3 builders. We're going to talk about different types of building that they do, SIPs and ICF, which is concrete blocks, basically, and things like that. So we've got some great shows coming up. And we will be here again next Wednesday, every Wednesday at 10 a.m., and we sure hope that everybody's enjoying the show. Check out our podcast. This will be up on our podcast in a couple of days. You can get to us on any podcast site. We're on Spreaker, and then we're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart. Is it iTunes? Still have iTunes? What do they call it now? They changed it. They did something with it. Anyway, we're everywhere. The website, remodelrevolutionradio.com. We have our schedule. We have all of our. Check out our sponsors and use our sponsors. Call them and use them, because these are really fantastic people. That's why I have them. And so we will be, you can reach me if you have a remodel or a home you want built or a remodel. You can reach me at 469-446-8508. It's Alex Guthrie Construction. And we have a full-fledged construction company that's been in business for about 40 years. So give us a call. We can handle pretty much anything that you want to do. Next, we're going to do next week when we're going to talk about air quality in healthy homes, and that's going to be a interesting hour because our guest is nationally known, the healthy home experts, and we talk about this a lot because we're spending so much more time in our homes, and the air quality in our homes is getting not as clean as it should be. And I think that the reason people are sick a lot is because they're not taking care of things like changing air filters and keeping up, because we're relying totally on our air conditioning systems now. And so we need to spend a lot more time, pay a lot more attention to that. So don't miss next week. Also, following up with all of those are these high performance homes, these builders that I mentioned earlier. They build high performance homes, and they're all real aware of putting these systems in homes and controlling the humidity and the dust and all that kind of thing. And we're also going to have Phil Crone with the Dallas Builders Association. He's going to come and give us a couple of updates on local things in the Dallas area. But if you're listening in other parts of the country or watching this in other parts of the country, we have national guests coming and going for the next couple of months. It ought to be a lot of fun. One of our guests is going to be the IHBS, which is an insurance organization that builds houses, and then they blow them down and then they figure out how to rebuild them so that they don't blow down as much. It's called fortified building. And so we're going to have the fortified building people coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we have Steve Lawton, who is our good friend, and he's going to be co-hosting with me from time to time. And Steve owns Total Air and Heat, he and his family. And he is an expert at air conditioning, and he's nationally known for that. And we love talking to Steve. He's got a demonstration he's going to do for us in a couple weeks, which is pretty amazing to watch him pour salt through an air conditioning filter and things like that. So we're also going to demo some smart thermostats. We're going to have the LED people on as well. We're going to talk about LED lighting. And so we've got just a jam-packed 2 months of shows right now. And we're also scheduling for the remainder of the year. So if you have a show you want to see, if you have a particular person or company that you think might fit the show, give me a call or email me, alex@remodelrevolution.com. And we will, Alex at remodelrevolutionradio.com. We haven't quite changed that yet. And tell me who it is. And if you have any ideas of anything you want us to talk about, anything you want me to cover, let me know. Also, if you have a project that you're doing and you want to get some advice on it, send us some pictures, send us a question. We'll talk about it on the air. And I'd love seeing that. You know, a lot of what I love to do is interact with people. That's one of my strengths in radio, is communicating with my listeners. We have so much fun doing it. And so please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. Also, check out our blog. I don't write nearly as much as I should, but I am doing sort of a ebook series where I'm posting chapters that I'm writing on my blog. It'll eventually end up as an ebook, and it's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be called. It started out, I think it's going to be called "Your Home Was Not Built to Be Remodeled." I I think that that'll be appropriate. And there's going to be a lot of advice and a lot of stories in it. And you can go on the blog right now and check it and read some of it. There's chapters in there, and I mark them as the ebook series. We have a series that's coming up this year, we hope, that's going to be called The Survivors. We're going to interview people that have survived natural disasters. And I think that we're about to wrap. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to having you next week. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Look for it, and it'll be popping up tomorrow, the next day, as soon as I get to it. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic week.
You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.